Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are, just as I said that, we have more people now entering the waiting room, and they'll come in as we go. But we're very lucky tonight to have with us a special guest. Now I'm going to try to say your name correctly. I always want to get the name right. So it's Pooja Malhotra. Malhotra?
Absolutely correct, Tanya. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Pooja. It's such an honor to have you. We're really excited to hear from you tonight. And I will pass it on to you and let you take it away. And again, if anybody has any questions, just make sure that you unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So yes, I'm Pooja Malhotra. Just let me, who am I actually? So I'll just give a brief introduction of myself. So you're aware who who's talking and giving us all these ideas and sharing its experience. Is it something really relevant? I've been working in software for almost 10 years now. I've been in Bay Area for 5+ years. On different domains, mostly in backend though, totally into software development. Right now I'm working at PayPal. I'm in development of a PayPal platform, and I've been doing good there. Development is something which has always interested me. It's always intrigued me. Something like these little puzzles and logics, and how can you fit one system and get it working. So it's been an interesting journey. Today I'll be discussing about the product development at a startup. Startup is something you can say it's a small company which is coming up with the new ideas, but I really wanted to know what exactly is your version of startup. What do you think? If anyone can come give me an answer, what do you think a startup should have, or what exactly is a startup? Anyone?
So anyone, what exactly is a startup? What's your version of a startup? And feel free to either raise your hand or just speak up.
Yeah.
High potential for growth and scalability.
Okay.
Right. Anyone else? Why do we have startups? What is the point of getting into, why does a startup just exist? Why will someone open a startup if you can figure out?
Yeah, what's the purpose of the startup?
To do in a startup, what problems we are trying in the startup?
Wow, everybody's shy tonight or something.
A
So I see
startup
something.
tries to fill a hole in the market, solving a problem for customers.
So I'm sorry. So this was Cameron said, yep, startup trying to build a hole in the market, solve a problem for the customers. I see in the chat also, Jaden says, you have a good idea, you'll think it'll be successful. So you start a company. Jason says, is it? Okay.
That's absolutely correct. So startups generally are there when we find a little gap between what is available in the market or what is the customer looking for. There's a gap between the availability and the customer. It can be some new invention, new innovation, a new idea, or it can be something which is existing also, but there is a gap between the products offered or the software offered and what is there available today. So startup is only a mix of all these. So startup is, any company can be a startup, but there are some generally underlying themes which are going on in the startup. Let me go there and I'll show you what exactly are the themes of the startup. So many startups follow the common theme. It's generally a startup, it's generally a small company, it generally has the nice new ideas which they're coming up with, new products which you're trying to achieve. But there are some the startups generally are credited as those companies which are in their initial phase, in their where the resources are still less, where you don't have a lot of money to try on experimenting on. You have to most of the time put in your seed money, you have to come up with the product and features and ideas, you have to look for your angel investors, you have to look for the VCs. The startups also are under various big time constraint and money constraint also, because technology is changing. You always have a competitors in the market. So you always wanted to see that you come up with your product fast so that the market trends don't go away, don't move away from the startup. What you're trying to get into and provide to the market, it should be fast enough, at least the MVP part, so that you can get started on doing the more things. So these are the some themes which I have here, which we can see lack of resources, like I've said, economical, human, physical resources are there. It's highly reactive in nature. Their startups very quickly change, and startups development generally happens, it's mostly on the client or the customer feedback. The development happens at the rapid pace. Development also, you can say, uh, it changes also rapidly. You might be working or you might be creating something for a week. The customer feedback will come and say, hey, I don't think this is a good user experience, or this is something we really need in this. Let's change it. So it might be like you're putting it in the back burner, or you're just keeping it away, and then you have to redo many things. So this is one of the driving factors of startup. Many times in bigger companies, you generally have the hierarchical roles. You generally have various roles for various things, like you have a PMO for program management, you have a product manager or owner who will be driving this, you have a people's manager, you have tech architects for high level designing of the components and software technical technologies to be used, they'll be referring us. You have engineers or developers who will be working there. But in startup, it's like multitasking. You have one person who will be doing many roles together. It can be probably a manager who will be doing a program management also, and he might be doing a people's management also. It can be a software engineer or a developer who will be doing engineering, who will be working as an engineering manager and technical architect also. So there is a very high, very volatile environment, rapid, fast-paced environment which happens in the startup. So what exactly entails product development at the start? What exactly is the product development here? Let's go there. So product development or a software product development is a process of turning an idea into a viable idea which can be sold into the market. So in product development, these are the things happen. Anyone else? I think this is the course where you all are doing the similar thing. So maybe you can come up with some idea. What exactly are you doing here? Are you doing something similar here? You feel yourself to be in the same boat as this?
So just so you know, the majority of the guests here tonight, they are startup founders. They're looking at in entrepreneurship. A lot of them are very, very, very early stage. Some of them have moved a little bit further and are right in the middle of their product development. Does anybody want to add anything? Any of the students here tonight? So quiet. I don't know if everybody's just worried about talking over each other, or it seems like when we get to a certain size, we don't get a lot of responses. But any startup founders want to add anything?
Okay, that's good.
They're very quiet tonight. Okay, well, yeah. So we do have the majority of them here are very early stage startup founders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good to know. So let's see what are the different stages of a startup or different phases of the product development here. You have first thing is you always have an idea. What you in startup, you always start with an idea. What is the idea you are doing? It is a concept and a prototype of potential features which you want to add into the functions to generate different product ideas. It can be either the existing or the new product. So it doesn't have to be always an invention. It can be just filling up a gap in some existing product also.
And Pooja, I see some comments in the chat. Some of the founders are saying that they're very focused right now on their testing, on their market testing. And so that's very true. A lot of them are right in the thick of it right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a very, very important part of the product development phase, which is testing market strategy, market testing, where you're really testing the waters. You're really figuring out what exactly is happening here. Is your product is good enough? How is the user experience that? How are the people responding to that product? So definitely. So I'll go through the points. Let's, like I've said, first is the idea generation. You definitely have to have an idea and a startup. What do you want to do? What kind of product you want to create? Second is idea screening. This is also a very important part. Reason being is, when we sit together, when like you're coming up with the idea generations, you come up with the ideas, and then you come up with the many more ideas, many more features which you want to add it into the current product. But the thing is, not all of the ideas, not all of the features might be so good. You might feel at that level, oh, we can add this product into this feature, or this feature into this product, and similar. But here you really have to focus on what exactly you want to create, what exactly you want to build. Because now features all the add-ons which are not really needed for MVPs. You really have to focus on the ideas and the feature which are which you think customers will really be using this. Customers will really be benefited from this. Any idea or product which you're creating, you are sending it to the market, but it's really a viable option. Is it a profitable option? That's also a very important part, because you are a startup. Always remember, you don't have a lot of money, or your investors are investing money into that. So they definitely want their returns back. So you have to focus here. Also, very important thing is, do you have a technical ability to manufacture this? That's very important. You don't early in the stages want to blindly go to the third parties or various vendors, and you don't even are aware of how you're going to develop this product. So this is very important. How is the competition? How's the market for that? How difficult is the existing competition for the this idea? Are there any existing customers? If yes, how are you planning to capture the market? How are you planning to share the market with them? So all these idea, when you think of all these questions and you put on your ideas, you might be able to eliminate most of these ideas also. Third is concept development. So now concept development is new product development process. It's like a building a detailed version of the idea and the user story. Now you have come up to the place where you are writing the user stories. You are actually dividing it into various steps and finding out what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. In this concept development comes in. So now also in concept development, you are doing the testing, because you'll share this idea with your investor, you share this idea with your friends and colleagues, and you find out, is it really viable? Is it a perceivable idea? Is it a good idea to have? So you also eliminate few more of the things here. Now comes the market strategy. Market strategy also have to be market strategy is also something with the similar thing. Like once you have a concept, you have to capture your market strategy, how you want to reach to your target audience. When the new product efforts are worth the financial investment, you are putting so much investment, but are you getting your returns back for that? And will it create a continuous stream of value? Because you don't want to get something in the market where you are doing updates and doing, but once you have invested, once the user has invested, there is no way to sustain it. You also want to sustain your product. That's very important part of product development. And then it's product development, then it's market testing. Again, product development is all about the software development of the product, which I'll come back later in more details. Market testing is generally when your prototype is ready, and then your market you go for the alpha and beta testing. Alpha testing is mostly where you'll be testing it in your own teams, in the developers which are all there, and all this your testers which you are there. In beta testing is generally when you open it to the public. So you get the users feedback, you see some of the features, some of the issues, some of the bugs. You go back to your development mode, you enhance the features, you remove some, you add some, and you keep working on this. So this market testing happens, like alpha testing is happening. It's happening at the end of development testing. You are really using is, you are validating all the software, and once it's done, we go to the beta testing mode. And in the end, once you are doing all this testing, Then you come to the product launch. Product launch is something, again, it's written one, but it's again in itself is a multi-step process where you will be finding how to do this, launch this product, in which phases you will launch this product, what is the customer segment which you want to launch it first. So all these questions will come. You will launch the product, and then you will see the metrics, you will generate the metrics, you will see if it's a sustainable, should we go ahead with it, or what is the future of the product looks like. So all these things will come in here. So if you see here, now going through all the phases of the product, me being a backend into mostly into development, I'll be discussing more about the product development, how we'll be doing product development. Important part of product development. You have to develop something. You have to do a software development for this. So how will you do the software development for this? Any idea what exactly is the software development? Means I have actually listed it first, but yeah.
Does anybody have any
Okay,
ideas?
software.
So, sorry about that. There was a little lag in there. Sorry, Pooja.
Sorry, no, it's okay. So I can get started. So what exactly is the software development? The software development is also the life cycle, SDLC life cycle, as we call it. It's a part and parcel of the product. So you always do a software development, but it's very different for a startup, and it's very different for the bigger organizations. In bigger organizations, software development goes through many phases, which are more time consuming. Where you discuss with your legals, and you are coming up with the design, it's getting approved, you are coming with the technical design, and then going forward with that. But in startups, it's at very rapid pace, it's very fast pace, because and you can say in the bigger organization, you actually first confirm everything. You are pretty sure of this is the requirement, this is the feature, everything has been done, everything has been tested, and now we are going to the development. But in startup, it actually goes in hand in hand. The market, the testing strategy and the software development, it goes hand in hand. You might develop some features, and then the consumers will come back and say, hey, I don't think this is needed, let's do work on something else. So you will be probably removing that feature and adding more into this. So customers are involved very much into this phase, especially in startups. You have to show your POCs, you have to show your demos very early. You have to be ready with that, and there are a lot of changes happen in the development process when you are at the startup. So very important thing here is to have your frameworks very solid, your features very solid, so that when you want to go back and come again with the design changes, you don't spend too much of time into this thing. You will be focusing more into your developing your product rather than spending more time in fixing your frameworks or working in that. So that's very important here when you're doing a development, that you'll be using technologies which you know very well, or which are used very well in the industry, so that most of the time if you see any issue or concern, it's fixable, it's already been worked on, and it's been provided. So in software development also, actually, there are many steps which are done here. First is, it goes with product development, especially in startup, like need identification, which is similar to your idea generation. Then here requirement analysis happen, which is a very important step of software development. Here the stakeholders are actually technical, they get the users technical requirements and they specifications, and they work more on the technical side of a product development. They have to come up with the technical requirements and everything, so that they come up, how will you develop into a product to achieve into the goals. So this is very important here. Second, the third part is design. So design is also very important here. Any questions in between? Just let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow.
No questions so far in the chat.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh. Just give me a moment, guys. I think I just press escape. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Sorry, I just realized that I was muted. I had muted myself. So right now it's just a blank screen. It says end of slideshow.
Yeah, and it's showing that my screen is paused. Just give me a moment, please. Let me share it again.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So this sometimes happens when we if you share the screen, if you just share one window within the screen, I've noticed that'll happen from time to time rather than sharing the whole desktop. So that might be it. Oh, sorry. Say that again. Oh, so
Yeah, it's showing my internet available. So it's little.
okay, there it goes. We can see your screen again. And so just so you know, Pooja, there was a comment. If it's a little fast for a couple of the students, if you want to maybe slow down just a little bit for some of the students. So, oh, I don't know. Is it just me or it looks like she's frozen for me? Is it just me, you guys?
No.
Okay. Hi, Lena. Thanks. So Pooja, it looks like you might be frozen a little bit. Oh, there we can see your screen with the monolithic SOA and microservice architecture. All right. Can you hear me all right, Pooja?
Can you see that screen? I can see. I'm showing just what is on the screen.
So we can see what is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. So there's a delay, Pooja. There's a little bit of a delay, a lag. You know, I wonder if it might help if you actually turn off your video just to save the bandwidth.
Yeah, let me try.
That might help. Let's try that, and I'll turn off my video as well. So if you could maybe talk now, and we can see if it works.
Sure. So sorry about all this, guys. Okay.
No, this is technical issues. We're well versed with this. We're fine. So I can actually hear you a lot better. Can everybody else also hear her better?
Yeah, it was more clear now.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So unfortunately, we can't see your beautiful face, but we can see the slides. So.
Okay, that works. Thank you. So yes, I was talking about the requirement analysis. So like it's a very important phase of software development life cycle, I was saying. So stakeholders agree on the technical and user requirements here, and they proposed what should be needed for a product to achieve its goals. So this phase also outlines the detailed outline of every component, the scope of the product and the tasks which each developer is doing, how will you be doing testing, and all these, what kind of quality you will be delivering for this product. So all this come into the requirement analysis, all these technical aspects of the product comes here. After that, there comes a design. So design phase comes when architects and developers sit together, they decide on the technical aspects of it. So they start from the macro level, they go into the micro level. Stakeholders, different stakeholders are in this part. There can be a PMOs, which will decide on team compositions and the soft things of, there will be architects who will be deciding on technologies which should be used, which kind of method and architectural design should be used. There will be legal team involved, which will be saying, okay, you can add these kind of things, these kind of risk levels. I can give you an example. If you have used PayPal, I can, of course, I'll be giving PayPal example because I've been working here and different ideas comes to my mind. So PayPal has recently launched a product called Goals. If you have seen, if you have updated, which is nothing, it's more related to you, how you can have a sub balance in your PayPal cash account, which means you create a goal. You can create a goal. Hey, I want to have a goal like by end of a year or 6 months, I want to have this much money for my Tahoe trip or my Europe trip. So what will happen? You can set a goal and you can add it something like this percentage of money which I'm coming to from my account to my cash should already be set apart for this goal. So when we created this kind of goal, we have to think of many things, not from the development part, but from other part, how the legal team was involved to update the terms and conditions for this, how localization team is involved to make sure the localization happens for this product for different user base. Of course, we as a software developer architects were there to design it. The legal team, and then the team was involved also to find out the risk levels. When we are developing something like this, like in startup also, you always have a risk. So in bigger companies also, you have a risk level where you say, oh, this product is this % risky, so I might be able to have gain the profit, but I might have to bear the losses at least for first quarter of the year because of probably some frauds happening or something similar happening. So these kind of things comes in the design part where you discuss all these things. How will you make the document? There are different documents, there are different templates provided for the designing, especially for the technical part. They're called high level design documents, where you'll be discussing more about the bigger components levels, how the interaction of the component happens, how they will be working. There will be a low level technical documents also, which are called technical design documents. They actually work at each component level, and they also work at what exactly or how exactly each component will talk to each other. If there are messages shared, what is the format of message shared? If there are APIs to be called, what will be the request or response? We generally try to add sample request response. You talk to your consumers. Consumers can be internal, or if your component is sending a response to another component, so that component becomes your client. So you have a handshake kind of thing between where they say, okay, this is a response we are expecting, and you are saying, oh, this is a response will be setting. So in design phase, we'll do all this, and then comes the development and implementation part. So the development and implementation, after the design is cleared, after everything is one, then the developers sit, they do the analysis again in the code to see where exactly we are doing this development, what kind of development is needed. There are two kind of development phases, or say things happens this in development. There are two views. One is a waterfall method. What happens in a waterfall method is you are given the product, and you have given the design, and you just develop it. You just develop it for a couple of months, couple of weeks, depends on how big or small is your change or the product development is there. Once you develop it, then it goes for the testing, you test it. It's like full feature rollout will happen in a waterfall method. You develop the full feature, then it go for the testing or QA. Once they do a round of testing, they come up with their issues, they come up with their bugs, concerns, then it goes back to development. So it's like a cycle goes. But in this kind of thing, the thing is development is one and testing is the another part, like one after another. So it generally takes a lot more time to deliver something, especially if something big, some big feature is missing, or some big serious security level have happened. You have to come back to your drawing board and do everything else. The second way of developing thing is agile. What is agile is generally you come up with something which you say, hey, I will do a small, I'll not give you the full feature. I'll give the smaller steps. I'll give you smaller bits of the feature which you'll be keep adding to this, and parallelly you can also do testing. So agile is something we do development in sprints, which is generally a 2-week or 3-week sprint. Mostly it's a 2-week sprint. So you can say, hey, in this development, okay, let me go back actually. So you can say, okay, in this one, what I'm doing is I'm developing this component. This will send you a response. It in the first sprint, I'm just sending you the dummy request and response. No matter what request you send to me, I send you the dummy response. Like you are developing even a simple thing like a user login. You will say, hey, another API is going to call my component or my API. So this is a request this is a sample request you're sending. You can change the parameters, but the response is always yes, you are logged in. So you can send a dummy response. You'll say, okay, in the second sprint, it's done. So you can see, you can test after this sprint. Oh, this is working. I'm able to connect to this API. I'm able to get the response from this API. Then you can say, hey, in the second sprint, I'll be doing the validation of the request. I will check if it's a user login, if it's a password I'm validating, I'll check if there are no spaces in the password, or it's not being used earlier, or there has to be a special character or the numbers in the password. So you add the validators. In the third one, you can probably say, so I'm persisting the data which you're sending to me. Or I'm doing the role-based redirection for after once the user login. So you generally develop product in a phased manner, and you keep adding it to your features. So these days, most of the companies are using agile because it's very fast-paced. You get to see your implementation very early in the beginning. You don't have to wait for 6 months of full feature development to see what exactly is happening there. It's like becoming a black box. Developer is coming and saying, hey, we need more time. We saw this change, because here you use very quick response time back, which is happening here. So this is what, especially for the startups, this is what is generally happening these days. This is very quick cycle, I'll say. So let me go back to the, so what exactly happens here? Now in software development, this was what I was telling you about, what happens in the process wise, but what exactly is product development? Product development, you always have to have a client side infrastructure. It can be your mobile application, it can be your web application, everything. So that's called the front end of your product development. It's mostly related to your UIs and layouts. Then comes the back end. So your front end talks to a back end through the internet or various protocols. It happens. In back end, you are generally having the servers, you have your application services, you have your databases, you have other vendor integrations if you're needed, you have your security components if these are needed. So all this so this is basically the client and front end of your product development, software development, I'd say. So like I was saying, front end versus back end. Why you're using your front end, what exactly is the front end, or what exactly is the back end? Tanya, I just wanted to make sure you are able to see my screen.
I am able to see your screen.
Okay, good, thank you. Yes. So front end is mostly related to how your things look. What is the layout, what is the UI? It's generally, even in the interaction, it's like client side interactions. So how is the content of it? Many technologies which are used in the front ends. If you have developed websites, you know, there is HTML, which is CSS for the layout. JavaScript is used for interaction. So all these things are used in front end. Front end libraries are also there, like AngularJS, React.js, or jQuery. They're mostly built on JavaScript framework only. So they are generally used for web and mobile based also. What exactly is the backend now? So in backend, if you can see, backend, it's different. Backend is more about putting your business logic, having your databases where you can persist your data, having your application layer, the servers where you will host your applications. No matter if the servers are, you are having your own servers or you're deploying it on the cloud servers, but you need to have all these things. In backend, it's more about the logic and the data. How will you be getting the data from the front end? How will you be calculating it, storing it, persisting it, and how will you be sending it back? In backend, it's mostly important, like in front end, you'll be using different things together. You're using HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the same single page. But in backend, when you develop a component, you generally develop it only one language. If you're using a Java, you can be using Python, you can be using PHP, but it has to be one. It's much easier and much cleaner if you use one language to do a backend development. But you can also say there are some languages which can be used as front end and back end. Can you someone give me an example of which language can be used as front end as well as back end?
Do any of my techie people know which language that is?
Python.
So, a test. Python, is it? Well, did somebody say Python? Is that right, Pooja?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
Python is one language, which can be technically used as front end as well as back end. But now the thing is, Python is can be used. But if you're using a JavaScript, you can say, "Can I use replace JavaScript with Python?" Yes, you can definitely. But the thing is, I'm sorry, I'm going very technical, but it's not very technical as such. It's just the higher level I'm saying. So when you're using the web browser, so they have a JavaScript engine which is used when you're creating your websites. So they have the ability to read it. So your the browsers doesn't have an ability to read the Python. You can definitely add it. You can definitely ship it with your product. But this is something you have to do. So technically, yes, you can use it for both the things. But yeah.
So I have a question for you actually from
Saying
the chat.
something?
So sorry, Pooja, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
So I do have a question from the chat, and actually a couple of people were actually asking about if you could expand a little bit on the testing. They just weren't clear what the difference between development and testing is, and particularly when they're doing because a lot of them are doing A/B testing, and kind of wanted to know some cost-effective ways or any advice you have on that A/B testing, and how they should go about that.
Sure, yes. So when you are developing, if you are doing into the development mode, definitely you have to have your testing there. So the testing can be of various kinds also. Before alpha and beta testing comes, there is from the developer's perspective or software side. Before you ship your product, your product is ready, which is called different kind of testing, which is one is called unit testing. You have to start your testing from there, from the development backend, in the backend, where unit testing is very simple, a class level testing or a very code level testing, which you do every code you write, you test it right away. Is this API, is this method is giving what I'm expecting in different circumstances? If I'm sending a wrong data, is it giving me the proper response? If I sending it the right data, is it giving the proper response? Then comes the functional testing. As a full the component, is it behaving functionally the way I want it to behave under different scenarios? These kind of testing they come when you most of the time you are doing it's when you're developing, actually, it's always a time constraint, and we always think, okay, we know what we are writing. I can write these test cases later. But believe me, this helps a lot. I've seen lot more issues in production because the testing was not done properly, especially at the development phase. The testing is very important. So unit testing is the basic, and then the functional, and then the integration testing.
So you said unit, functional, and integration testing. And is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And I just want to make sure to make sure that I understand as well. Which of the testing is done actually with the on potential consumers, and which is done just internally?
So all these three are done actually internally. These are done before the product is shipped to the consumers.
Okay, so all of these are internal. These are not tested on the market at all.
No, this is to make sure your product is solid, your product is behaving, the features are working as you have been expecting it to be working. So they are all done internally in the development mode. This is like a continuous cycle going on, where you can come up with your dates and say, hey, you know what, this feature is not working, or this corner case scenario is not working. We can handle it first. Let it go to the market. Let it start with the alpha testing. After this thing is done, once you have your development and development phase, it's testing from the development side, then you go for your testing, which is like A and B testing, like I was saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So A and B, alpha and beta testing is generally done to validate all the software, their perspectives, and the all things are working. So the difference between these two testing is, alpha testing is when it's done at the end of development. And it's generally done with the in-house teams, in-house customer QA teams, or in-house selected group of people which will be using that. So they all happens in like as an insider testing, you will find out the bigger bugs or blockers or the missing feature which you think are important. You will be doing this testing for a couple of weeks before you go for your beta version. So once the beta version testing is done, it's again you select a group of people, your group of your target consumers to go for the beta testing and seeing, okay, this is the testing which is done there. You get the end users feedback. You know how what is the user experience for this beta testing. Are they really using this feature? What is this they're telling you about is missing? How can you improve the functionality or compatibility of that testing? How can you improve the usability of that product? So all this comes in beta testing, which is basically comes after the alpha testing.
And I know that you said that it's done somewhat internally, in that you have a small group of selected customers or people who will act like customers. But in is that because it's a large organization? For startups, would you potentially have to go out into the market and find your target users, rather than and if I understood you, I think you're saying that you have some some cohorts that you test on, like in PayPal, for example.
Yes,
Correct.
So,
But for a smaller company, they would probably have to go out into the market, correct?
That's right. So alpha testing is generally happens in the smaller group in-house teams, but beta testing is always the particular section of market. Even for PayPal, if you are releasing a product, you'll always you'll select a target group of customers and you go for the beta testing with them. Even if you say then when Apple launches its new iOS operating system or something, when they launch it with the beta testing, saying it's not some other software, probably Apple doesn't do that, but the companies, when they say this is work in progress version, this is not the fully developed version. That is the beta testing which is happening with the consumers which are downloading and using it. So beta testing is generally that kind of testing where the techies, which they generally are interested in doing that, trying out the new software, giving their feedback to improve usability, to improve the user experience. So this is the beta testing, which is mostly with the targeted group of the end users, of the real world users, actually.
Right. Thank you. And do you have time for one more question, really quickly? I know we're getting close on time, but there was one more question about testing, and it sounds expensive. Karen actually said, is there a way to bootstrap this and to do this on the cheap, since a lot of these founders don't have a lot of money?
Interesting question.
So you're right. Means testing is something, testing actually comes very costlier if you see you don't do a proper testing and when you have to come back. Because I know there's always a time crunch, there's always a money crunch for, especially testing is a part where you are very sure that, I have developed this, I have tested. We have to go for the full-fledged testing. But the thing is, every time you have not done the testing, it always comes back to bite. So that's very important to do a thorough testing there. You don't want your unsatisfied consumers. You don't want unsatisfied customers. You don't want, it can be simple testing, all kind of testing is important. You have to test your performance of your product. You don't want, like you have tested with 100 users, but when it goes out and 10,000 users are using it and it's not performing, it's just crashing back. You don't want that kind of user experience happen. Or if there are different users using in the different regions, you can see you have tested it for US, but when the same user say goes to Mexico and he's trying to do something and it's not working accordingly. You don't want to give that kind of experiences because you have not tested fully.
Absolutely.
So testing is a very important part of development and before the product launch.
Thank you.
Was it okay? Do you have any more questions on testing?
I personally am good. I saw that William does have a question. William Stedman, if you would like to ask.
Can I speak this, or do I have to write this?
No, please do speak. There's no No, absolutely. The only reason why we were doing that was just some bad connectivity, I think. So please do speak.
Okay, yeah, I got a couple questions on testing. I have an idea, I have it patent and everything, and I go to a company and have them make my software and hardware. They should have to do all the testing. I only have to test the end product. Am I correct?
Well,
So if you're going to a company, is the company developing your full software, you're saying, your full product?
No, they're not. They're only developing parts of the software.
So when they're on, the thing it works like this is whoever develops that software, they should be responsible, and they should own that part of the software. That part of the software should be behaving as the way it has been discussed in any scenarios or kind of corner cases. So they should be responsible for what is coming out of their software.
so just
But
to
that-
put it another way, that they're responsible for testing that portion that they worked on typically.
Yes.
And that software would be mine when I pay for it, right?
So
Or-
depend.
Pooja, you want me to answer this question? If you want me to. Yeah, so it all depends upon what you have set up as an agreement with them. Sometimes companies say, I'll develop the software for you, and the IP is theirs, but you can have a use case license for that. The
So-
other is time and material development. Will basically you have that set up with them, where whatever they develop, it becomes yours, your IP. So that's answers that question, hopefully. And the
Okay,
second
okay.
question,
Thank you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Vivek.
now, the second part of, I think, question is who owns the testing, right? And who does the testing? So typically the testing has to be done by the company. If you're working with that company, a relationship is that they give you end product.
Okay, I got one other question.
Okay.
If that product is not mine, do they have a right to sell it to somebody else?
So William, it depends on your contract, and I think that's what Vivek was.
Oh, so, okay, all right, okay. Just
So
be
it
careful on the
really-
contract.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
depends on the
so-
contract. It's so important to have a complete contract that's been, that's been looked over, that you've had somebody who's on your side to really take a look at.
And that's
Right.
one. And then there is another piece which you need to be very careful about, is that when you start mixing the open source under Apache license, Apache 3.0, Apache 4.0 licensing, which is open source licensing, typically, you need to make sure that they're not mixing the IP of the open source and the work which has been done. If they're mixing that IP, let's say you become big company later on, you can get into a big trouble.
And what kind of trouble can I get into? What are you talking about there?
He's talking about patent infringement. But I think that this is definitely one of those questions that might be better. We can save it till the end, William, and we can talk one-on-one, because it sounds like there's some specific things that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has its own challenges around it, but it's
I-
out of the scope of this conversation, though.
All right, I work with the military on this, and I don't want to get into any kind of situations later. That's why I asked that question.
Yeah, that sounds.
Yeah,
sounds-
so military has a different other aspects you need to be worried about, like the CIFIS and areas like that. So I think that there are other aspects when it comes to when you're dealing with the defense.
Yeah.
And sorry about that. So I did want to say also, so Pooja, we're very close to time, but I want to make sure that you have a chance to, discuss any remaining points that you wanted to cover in the few minutes that we have left together.
So
I turned my mic off.
No worries, William. Stick around afterwards. We can talk some more.
So yeah, I've covered most of the product development phase and most of the software development phase. So this is the back-end architecture of software development, especially for the students. I wanted to show when it's happening. So what exactly entails in the back-end development, which you can see when you're creating the back-end development, you have many things which you have to take care of. You have to have your failover systems handy. You always want 100% availability of your product, or almost as good as 100%. You need to have your load balancers for handling the loads. You don't want suddenly from 5,000 to 50,000 requests coming and your server is not able to handle that. And of course, you have your servers. Their servers can be in-house servers, can be any servers like AWS or Google servers, which you will be using to host your applications. You always have your databases there in the backend where you persist your data. You have a replicated databases there. Different kind of databases. That's a full, again, full-fledged conversation on the technical side. But this is mostly looks like if you see what happens in the backend architecture here. If anyone has any questions on this one.
I actually have a quick question. I know we're almost out of time, but I just have one quick question. I was actually considering getting a server for our incubator at the Rec Innovation Lab, just on the thoughts that some of the startups may need it. Do you think that that's something I should look into?
So it actually, when you're hosting a server, it depends into many things. If it's like just the in-house product or the smaller one, you can definitely host it at home, like in your institute, and you can handle it yourself. But when it comes to the larger group of clients, it's a totally different situation. Also, it depends on the money and the cost involved. If you have seen the Google servers where you host your applications, they are monthly charged, or there are some trial versions, but very and they're also based on number of requests comes on the server. So you really want to see the technical side one and how you want to maintain maintenance and operations of the servers. All that comes into the picture when you are deciding on these things.
Right, it's going to come down to the cost. I'm sure.
Pooja, let me add to what you said. Tanya, what's the goal of hosting a server on rec side? What's the goal?
Right. So the goal would be just for the students who are doing somewhat larger projects than they could handle on their personal devices. So that we would have the storage at the rec to help them.
Oh, this is for the storage.
Mm-hmm.
The storage of the code.
Storage of code, storage of even like things like videos. We've been realizing that we've had, just not enough space, and so that was kind of one of the things that I was thinking. Could maybe.
Yeah,
help.
so I think this is a longer conversation. Just a simple answer on this one. You rather use a cloud services and cloud plus edge services than hosting yourself, because then you need to have a person who maintains it, like Pooja talked about. And that can be even more costlier eventually, because the storage you have to keep on adding. Because yeah, you may want to just and for develop. So there are two parts. It's one, you talked about development. So development, again, I don't want to.
Yeah, we can chat. We can chat offline. You and I.
Actually, the three parts. One is the development part. One is your storage, and the third one is, what kind of the backend you're going to use for different people. So one way of doing it is that, okay, everybody standardizes on AWS or one of those services, which allows you to be for a education institute. I think they're free, more or less.
Okay, so then, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, well, it looks like we're pretty much out of time. I want to make sure, Pooja, if you want to, I don't know if you could turn on your camera again. I think we're pretty much good with our, if possible. If not, no big deal. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with?
So yeah, I'm pretty much done with that. There is a whole total discussion on, like Vivek is saying, and the question which you have asked, where it is more about what kind of service, or if you should host your own servers and databases, or you should be using the cloud-based one. So it very much depends on how technical you are, how can you maintain it, how much cost or money is involved or not in that. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything. I appreciate you being here today. Thank you all for coming. There you are. Good to see you again. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Don't forget, if you have not yet, there's a survey link that we put in the chat. Enzo just put it. Please answer the survey. It helps us to just make better workshops for you and give you what you'd like. And I see a lot of comments in the chat. Pooja, thank you. From me as well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So
Bye,
much.
everyone. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Have a great evening.